Welcome, everybody. I think you caught a brief glimpse of me at the wrong time there. I'm Christian Schiller. This is the Solo Adventurer, where I, every week, take a solo role-playing game, interactive fiction game, storytelling game. I don't know. The genre is loose, and I do a test session for about 45 minutes to an hour. This week will be a little bit similar to last week for various reasons. Firstly, because it is the solo version from, and I've already forgotten the name, give me a second. It's the solo version of Tales from the Loop by Parts Per Million, who produces a lot of solo versions of popular roleplay systems. And because of that, it's kind of solo variants on how to play a traditional campaign, and trying to play a traditional campaign scenario for Tales from the Loop and these sorts of games is quite long and is more sort of preparation needed than some of the interactive fiction, click here to do this, click here to do that, other games I've done in the past. So what I'm basically going to do is much like I did with Wicked 1 last week. I will review how it works and kind of do like a test few scenes as I go. And that's how I'm going to work it. If you are joining me, then please chat away in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. Help me with any decisions I need to make and any comment you may have. I am Christian Schiller. You can find more about me at christianschiller.com and my various other videos and streams and feeds and all sorts of things. So if you enjoy the episode, please leave a comment, please tell your friends. But of course, it's all about solo gaming, so you don't have to bring your friends, you just tell your friends. So what are we looking at today? I'm gonna switch into Tales from the Loop. Tales from the Loop is a role-playing game set in 80s. Well, it's actually interesting. It's originally in 1980s. I just realized where's my camera? Where's my lovely face? A second. Why is my lovely face not showing? There we go. There I am. Brilliant. Set in the 1980s. It's actually originally based in Sweden. It's originally Swedish creator. You can actually see that from the company's called Free League, but if you look up in the browser bar, if you can see it, it's Fria how they pronounce it. But it's originally Swedish, and you can actually see here the language over here, Svenska. So it actually takes place in 1980s Sweden, and they did make a kind of Americanized version where I think it's in Boulder. But I kind of like playing in the Swedish version. It's kind of interesting because it's different. And it may seem a little bit like Stranger Things. It actually came out before Stranger Things, interestingly. And there was a TV series of it on Amazon Prime in the past few years. It was okay. It was a little kind of slow and quiet, but I think that was kind of the point. The aesthetic of Tales from the Loop has always been that your kid's kind of discovering mysteries and no one really believes you and no one's really on your side, and there's that kind of weird, like, gentle feeling. It's not up there with the kind of like crazy intenseness of something like The Goon is. It's kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of like weird. It's like the summers you remember from your school holidays, but just weirder. Whereas when you looked at it, like nothing really happened. But it just seemed like it did to you, I think. I don't know, something like that. I have run the beginner scenario in the main rulebook twice for different people, actually. And it's very fun. It's a very easy game to run. It's very rules light. It's actually very good for beginners. And there's no death or fighting. There's conflict, but it's not violent because you involve children. And like, for example, one of the things I always loved the most was if a child, quote unquote, dies in the way of they would in other RPG settings. They don't die, they kind of just go home and all this. And the kids are like solving mysteries and then have to go do their homework or deal with their annoying parents and things like that. And I kind of love that sort of concept. It's also going to be a board game, which I backed on Kickstarter very soon. So we'll see. And then the game itself has had lots of expansions and things like that. It's a very nice game, actually. Stranger Things and E.T. Yeah, kind of. And it's especially fun if you were a child of the 80s, because it's based in the 80s. It's especially relevant and good fun. I would wonder how people who were not kids of the 80s would find it, because some of the references, like I could basically, and when I played it with my wife, we kind of play ourselves from our childhood, effectively. But anyway, I digress. We are not exactly looking at Tales from the Loop today. We're actually looking at, I'll bring it up. Now, I've got multiple things open here. We're actually going to look at Alone in the Loop, solo role-playing, again from Parts Per Million, Peter Rudin-Burgess, who does a lot of these versions. And I've got over here, I do actually own the book for Tales from the Loop, but I forgot it. I left it at home. And so I just bought up, instead of completely forgetting how to run the game, I bought up a cheat sheet from the Alexandrian that will help me just get through the basics of the system. So and I've also got as a basis, I have my annotated copy that I've run before of one of the scenarios in the beginner book, this 4 Seasons of Mad Science. We're going to kind of walk through a few scenes of this solo and see how it feels, basically. All right, so let's have a look through. I will just hide that out of the way for now. There we go. And that too. Good. So, let's begin. Solo role-playing. This is some similar introduction to what we saw in Wicked Ones, or Wicked One. You cannot play a role game on your own. That is not true, as we've seen in this. It becomes a bit more like a guided storytelling, I think, but also a little counter to some of the other games I've played on this stream, where it's very much like a very fixed path to follow. You're basically kind of telling a story yourself, which is kind of fun as well. And it's also a nice exercise almost to write some fiction or something like that. You make decisions, and yeah, anyway, let's look at the rules and the running the mystery side. And this is where I'm actually intrigued to see how it's handled in Tales from the Loop, because unlike Wicked One, which is more of a kind of reverse D&D, Tales from the Loop is all about solving mysteries. So if you know the solution to the mystery, how's that going to work? I'm intrigued to see how that will work. Okay, so let's have a look. Most of the time, you're going to use the standard rules from Tales from the Loop. You use skills, and you can use your pride just as you're playing normally. And the rules for Tales from the Loop are actually very simple. Let's just recap them very quickly. You have, I also just realized I forgot to bring any kids with me. I don't think I even, let me see. No, whoops. Oh well, we'll just make it up. You basically have a tribute plus a skill. So this is sort of physical, mental, etc., plus skills that supplement that. You roll dice, and 6s are success. It's a very simple system. If you're using your iconic item, so this could be something like your skateboard. Your first skateboard helps you escape a scene very quickly. That could be your iconic item. You have 1 iconic item. You add 2 dice. Any other items that help or hinder you, +1 to -3. Assistants, NPC assistants who could be hindering you, etc. Once per session, you can use your pride for an automatic success. You also have luck points, and you can push. This is a sort of standard mechanic in many games of pushing yourself, but of course, if you fail that time, then the consequences are worse. And then you have difficulties, 2 successes. Yeah, I think standard success is 3 from memory. Strangely, it doesn't actually mention it here. Maybe it's just 1 success. Just 1 success, I guess, if extreme difficulty is 2. Yeah. I think we can probably leave the rest out for now. There's also this very nice thing. I love these kind of grounding rules in Tales from the Loop. which are nice, worth repeating before we dive in further. Your hometown is full of strange and fantastic things. Everyday life is dull and unforgiving. Adults are out of reach and out of touch. The land of the loop is dangerous, but kids will not die. The game is played scene by scene. The world is collaboratively described. There's not many mainstream roleplay games in the traditional sense that have these nice rules. I know a game like 10 Candles, if you've ever played that, have these sort of base rules. It seems like we will all die at the end of the scenario or whatever it is. But I've never seen games like in the style of Tales from the Loop that do that. It's quite nice. Principles, yeah. And then we have the mystery here. Everyone kind of follows a similar pathway. It's almost like a TV show in some respects. And that's basically all we need to know. Oh, here we go. We have attributes, body, tech, heart, mind, and skills here, which I think for the sake of this scenario, I'll create a character that's a bit like me. It's probably easier. So let's say fit but not strong. Understand technology in some respects. I'm not very good with physical technology, and this is the 80s, so I don't know. Heart, kind of in the middle there. Mind, again, kind of in the middle there. I would probably say, I can't remember how many skills you're supposed to have right now, but I don't think we're going to need too many as we go anyway. So, where things differ is when you would normally ask the Games Master a question about a location or scene. There is no Games Master to ask, of course. Special rules come into play. These are designed to prompt your imagination. You use a prompt and apply it to your current situation to create the answer. Some questions are simple yes and no. Others are more open-ended. The rules introduce an element to your mysteries that is out of your control, just like it would be with a Games Master. And this is where I think we need it, especially with a mystery. And there's going to be a bit of metagaming involved, obviously knowing that sometimes you know you failed, as opposed to a mystery game with a Games Master when they don't always tell you if you failed. Once you start your investigation, a new game technique will control the countdowns in each locational scene. This puts drama and tension in the lap of the gods, or the lap of the dice, I guess it's more precise. But first you need to be able to answer some questions. Question time. Asking questions is not too dissimilar to using the magic 8-ball kid's toy. Okay. Inside the 8-ball was a 20-sided die with vague answers on each face. When you shook the ball, one face would be left showing. Yes, I think if you're a kid of the 80s, you probably remember them. Answering a question is essentially the same as overcoming trouble. You're going to roll a dice pool, and a single success means the answer was a yes. So there's kind of an added mechanic to introduce that randomness, I suppose. The more successes you roll, the more emphatic? Is that a typo? I'm not quite sure. The yes the result becomes. Not all no answers are the same. Some are simple, absolute no. For example, there is a light on or there isn't. Some are shades of grey. That makes sense. So let's say, imagine my kid, my basically young me, feels upset, scared, or exhausted. I'm going to say feels exhausted. All you want to do is get home. This actually happened to me a lot as a child without getting too into things. I don't mean that in a, like, I don't want that to come out in a bad, anyway, I should stop talking. Looking up and down the road, you ask if there is a police car in sight. So I wonder how we actually do this. What's the role we do? Okay, so it's actually similar to Wicked One. This system over here on the right, it's somewhat similar to Wicked One. The quantities of D6. So is there likely to be a police car in sight? In the 80s? Maybe. I might go for 2d6. So I'll bring up my dice roller. Here we go. 1 and 2. So 1 success. So I think that means I am lucky. I do see a police car. 1 success would put a police car there, maybe on the other side of the road and heading away, but you could still work it into your story. So I'm exhausted, and I kind of from the other side of the road, just like waving at this police car, just like, help, help. I grew up in the, actually in the city, but in Tales from the Loop, you're kind of in a smaller city, so I'm probably quite noticeable on the side of the road. So, and maybe I kind of take off my jumper or something and start waving it and it makes me more visible. And there we go. They kind of looked a bit suspicious at me, but I managed to get their attention. And this is kind of what is mentioned here because of town sizes and things like that. A no would mean that nothing happens. And this is actually interesting. This paragraph here is very much taken out of the improv world. It's useful to think of no answers as a no because there's these improv principles about no and no because, like keeping the narrative going, not just saying no, because that stops the narrative right down. Improv and role playing actually have a lot of crossover. And that second part is important. So maybe I would have said no, I do not see a police car because they are busy attending to a robbery or something like that, and that could come later into the story or something like that. Or no, because I am too far away and they don't see me, somebody else does, and that kind of thing. Open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are those that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no answer. So I wonder what we could think would be an example. I wonder if there is an example we can draw from the scenario here. Actually, this application doesn't actually. Oh, it does let me zoom in. I tell a lie. So this is all the background here. I wonder if there's an actual. The problem with this application is it doesn't render quite so nicely for. Let's look. What would be a? Let me see. So this is all the setup for this mystery. There's these kind of birds and things. I remember that. Let's think. There's hearing pigeons talking. Maybe we could go for one. I think there's still a yes or a no answer. Trying to think of a non-yes or no answer. It's actually hard to think. It's something you don't necessarily control, isn't it? I'm struggling to think of a good example here. It's actually quite difficult. What would be an example? Let's use the example here then. I cannot think of any that match the book. What are two teachers talking about? Okay. So a pair of D66, two normal six-sided dice. Okay. And then we use this table, so we have to figure out how we do that with, to remember. I think we can do it with, maybe? Oh, no. Okay, I need to get rid of one dice, though. Okay. So say the black is the unit, so 56, almost the same. So answer your open-ended question. You roll 2 dice and get the number. Look up the answer on the action table. Ask yourself, does the word you have rolled immediately give you an answer to the idea? Well, let's have a look. So do I overhear what two kids are saying about the pigeons? There we go. Let's go for that. So we have 56. Where's this table? So how do I do this? I do 62 and we roll it. Oh, we roll it twice. Oh. Right, what I had the first time was actually correct. Okay. So, 2. And we'll say that the black dice. So there we go. 13 and 65. There we go. And we use Action and subject. Okay, right. So our our action is 13 and our subject is 65. Okay. So convincing mystery. Seems very appropriate. Convincing mystery. So I guess we hear the pigeons kind of... No, we overhear the kids talking about the pigeons saying, you know, we overheard the pigeons talking about where they came from, this building, where it may be. We'll worry about that later. Well, I mean, the fact they were talking is convincing enough. The fact that they were talking beyond just basic, like, feed me, fly, fly, hungry, hungry, is also extremely convincing as a mystery. So overhearing this, and these are kids that I trust. You know, one of them's like possibly not my best friend, but someone I know pretty well and has always been good to me. One of them is a smart kid. Like, I kind of trust what they're saying. So it's very convincing to me that I should pursue what is going on here. I think that's good. And there's also an alternative here to use word association. You say deceiving, I say misleading. You say junk, I say collectible. Well, it's kind of difficult when it's just me, but I think I am kind of happy with my solution, actually, with my outcome. Okay, what else do we have? Tool is probably the single hardest skill in all solo play. Startup Table was created with the Mythic Games Master emulator, tailored down to suit Tales from the Loop. I'm not sure if the writer means the hardest playing the game or the hardest to write the book. I'm not sure. But either way, I'm kind of happy with my solution there. I think they came out quite nicely. And maybe this is just because I've been doing this a lot and I kind of can make some good estimations. And a movie's direct view of the location is a nice way of thinking about it. Bringing it together. If you are strict with thinking through how you use your skills and how you attempt to overcome trouble and use the question tools above, you now have the bare bones to how to solo play. Toolset is better suited to the mystery lands than a published mystery. So just generic, I suppose, although we could kind of do it. Following tool will start to focus on mysteries and how to play them. So let's again take the loose setting of the Tales from the Loop base scenario, which is kind of from memory. Actually, we can have a quick read through. We don't have to do it from memory. I have it right here in front of me. There is a summary up here. Disgraced scientist Lena Thelin has decided to take revenge on her former colleagues and managers at Rixenagi DARPA. The stuff in orange is the Americanized version. She has captured wild birds and enhanced them with cybernetics, of course, so as to train them to attack people at her command. She has made a former sidekick resign and help her. And then there's a love story and a whole bunch of things there. And they found this wreckage of a ship, and they've implanted chips in the heads of the birds. And experiments did not turn out as planned. And some of the birds have gained a form of human intelligence, the ability to engage in speech, and some are becoming aggressive. And there's all sorts of things. So that's kind of the mystery we're solving. So, okay, we'll take that into consideration as we go through this. Let's hide that. I want to get that out of the way. There we go. There is a danger that a solo game could proceed very much like writing a story. I don't necessarily see this as a problem. I mean, there's only one person to please, and that is yourself. So not necessarily a problem, but sure. And follow a plan you have created. I mean, it could be a good way of generating a scenario for the game as well. There will be situations and events that may happen because of your actions or even because of your lack of action. In a mystery, there's usually a countdown We saw that in the setup for the scenario. The drama dice are going to drive the steps of that countdown, but also control smaller specific events that are almost out of your control. Drama dice use a dice pool, typically 3 to 5 dice, for a countdown or retribution countdown. So this, I suppose, is emulating that type of thing you sometimes get in a GM run mystery, where there are things happening in the background outside of your control. But of course, if you know about them yourself, you also run the game, you kind of need something to push them forward. When the event that should or could trigger the countdown start, roll the dice pool. If you get a success, the first event on the list happens. So do we have to make that list? Or is it the list? I think it's the equivalent of the list. No, not that one. Too many windows. No, wrong window again. Third time lucky. So I'm guessing this is kind of the countdown in this scenario. So we can maybe use that as an example. Oh, here we go. No, there is actually a specific countdown. There we go. So let's use this as our reference point. Hopefully that's readable. Yes, I think so. So here's our countdown. Zoom in a little there. When the event that should or could trigger the countdown starts. So let's look at number 1. A large number of dead birds are found. They are common. Oh, so this is, it's almost like the precursor to the mystery. Well, we'll go with it. I mean, this is not the best example, but it's the best one I have off the top of my head right now. There are common birds without microchips seen as competitors by the killer birds. Some are even dead dogs and cats. In fact, maybe one of the kids' pets. So, okay, so that's countdown number 1. Roll the dice pool. If you get a success, the first event on the list happens. Discard 1 dice from the countdown. Okay, so I guess the thing is here is to see if I encounter that, I suppose, or if the events have. But it's that sentence here about when the event that should or could trigger the countdown starts. I'm not sure how I would know that's the case. So in this case, it might be, yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm struggling to figure out how to match the two. The event that should or could trigger the countdown. I'm not 100% sure. Well, let's roll the dice. And this is to say it has happened. I don't know. So we're beginning with drama dice, use a dice pool. 3 to 5. Use as many steps. Okay, so there are 4 steps. All right. Let's reset our dice. We'll add 1, 2, 3, 4. So we do not have any successes. So I guess for the sake of argument, Okay, so someone finds a large number of dead birds without the microchips. There are some dead dogs and cats in the area, but the countdown isn't triggered, so it's not my pet. My pet is okay. So maybe it's strange, it's concerning, but we're in the wilds of Sweden. It could be a wild animal. It's not unusual for a fox or a bear or a wolf to attack animals sometimes. So, okay. Let's say the next one. Oops. So the countdown is, well, let's roll our dice. I mean, the first one hasn't. This is where I'm not sure. Do we still? Okay. When the event that should or could trigger the countdown start, roll the dice pool. If you get a success, so you discard 1 dice each time. Okay. Each time your story advances, either find a clue, you visit a different location, overcome trouble, or hit the event that could trigger a new step, you re-roll the dice pool. Okay. So let's take it again. We remove 1 dice. Oh. Okay, so it's 3 dice. And no successes again. So A young person, perhaps someone the kids know, is attacked by seagulls and badly hurt. Takes refuge. Well, we don't know about it, I suppose. So it doesn't motivate us to do anything about it. I'm sure there was a way to... Oh, there we go. That's it. So now we re-roll again. Still no successes. So I guess this is all a prelude to the mystery. So yeah, a large group of killer birds gathers in a playground. The children flee into their houses. The birds attack the houses through open windows and chimneys. Several people are injured, maybe even killed. But I'm too busy reading comics. I don't know about it. Fine. And then finally, I'm a little unsure what will happen if just nothing is triggered, but we'll see. Reroll. No. So same again. A large group of birds attack the kids or their families. Maybe this relates to the police car that I maybe wouldn't have seen earlier. But again, I'm lost programming my Commodore 64. I don't notice. So what happens? You proceed down the next step. But what happens if I run out of dice? If you get a success, you proceed to the next step. But if I run out of dice without a success, I'm not really sure what happens. That's a little unclear to me. I just sort of haphazardly stumble into the mystery. I'm not really sure. That's something I'm a little unsure about there. But we all know, if you've ever played mystery solving games, trying to get the players just to sometimes start solving the mystery is a challenge in itself. So, okay. Dramatic scenes. A dramatic scene is one where something bad may happen. Sneaking around the school at night may or may not alert the caretaker. Breaking into the scrapyard may wake the dog. You start with 3 dice in your dice pool. Every time you either do something that could raise the alarm, be discovered, or wake the dog, you roll the dice pool. We'll come to that. I'm going to make my own scenario in a second. Each time you roll a success, you discard the dice. As you move around, look for clues and search for evidence. Every failure may diminish. When there are no dice left, the thing you hoped would not happen has happened. But I guess that's per scene. Yep. So let's take an example maybe from this scenario. Here we go. Here's a good one. So Mats, the ornithologist, is very worried about the aggressive birds. He sees no reason to help the kids if they don't somehow persuade him. So charm or empathize. I will say I have 2 dice. So we switch back to, we start with 3 dice. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and we'll re-roll. I failed. So I tried. Actually, I don't know. Maybe if you go down the Dungeons and Dragons path, you can't keep charming someone over and over again. But then there's a Blades in the Dark approach that says you try in a different way. Maybe we're going more for that. So maybe I firstly just tried to be like, play dumb kid. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here, etc., etc. Second time, I tried to be more nuanced and kind of say, well, you know, I could see you're upset or something like that. Well, let's see. Do I get a success? I got 1 success. So, each time you roll a success, you discard the dice. So move around for clues, etc. Each failure may diminish. Start with 3 dice. Every time you do something that, okay, yeah. Each time you roll a success, you discard that dice. But to failures, you also discard the dice? That's what I'm not sure about. What I'm not entirely sure about. Okay. We can re-roll again. And, I got another 6. So I was successful, I guess. And So what was supposed to happen here? We persuade him. We persuade him to help us because give a tearful rendition of the fact that people are being hurt, and he's an ornithologist, so people might blame him, etc. Okay. Running a mystery. This is where it's interesting. Mysteries are a combination of locations, scenes, clues, NPCs, and countdowns. So we've already... I think the countdowns is the... Well, actually, no, everything is there. If you're going to run a campaign like The Four Sins of Mad Scientists, which we already have, you would treat each mystery in the campaign as a separate entity. Preparing a mystery. Each mystery comes with a small mind map of locations, which we saw up here. Write a post-it note index code for each location so you could rearrange them if needed. Highlight specific trouble that is mentioned in the text. Okay. Create a note card for each NPC. Separate so you can move them around. For each scene with intervening scenes you move through the mystery. The additional scenes can be a mix of everyday life, etc., etc. I mean, we've kind of been doing that throughout this video. And have some NPC kids. Maybe. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of solo mystery solving in some respects. It kind of works in the setting. But maybe they're in my hideout. Maybe I'm like, you know, a kind of nerdy kid and I need some help breaking into something. So I go back to my hideout and there's my friend Sven, who is a bit stronger, and ask him to come and help me, that kind of thing. And we see if they're there or not. So let's say Sven is kid A, and Greta, who is there's like a musician kind of goth character. Let's say that's her. Kid B and Kid C. Kid C will be my older brother, slightly older brother, only by 6 months, who is a jock. I mean, it's a bit like Kid A, but okay, fine. We'll see if they're there. Let's roll a d6. Okay. Who's there? Kid B. Greta is there, who is not who I was looking for, but that's a shame. So I have to go back and figure out the mystery on my own, the problem on my own. Avoid railroading. I mean, railroading with mysteries generally is hard. With solo ones, it's even harder. In some respects, it's interesting because railroading with a mystery game to players can be very frustrating. But of course, railroading as a solo game is kind of okay because you know what needs to be done. And if you don't progress down the mystery, you're basically just having a rambling conversation with yourself. So, yeah, I actually kind of think railroading or loose railroading, as long as you're having fun in a solo game, is kind of okay, actually. Yeah. And see, it actually mentions Matt that we just had in the scenario there. Everyday scene. So everyday scene, let's say my dad is an engineer. He's a bit obsessed with detail and things like that. And it's hard to get his attention because he's so focused on figuring out his work things. My mother, this is the 80s, is a kind of working part-time in a store. She listens to me, but she doesn't really understand me because I'm somewhere between the two of them. I get home after these birds, and my father doesn't get it because he's just like, how can birds be talking, and birds with chips, and what are you talking about? And my mother's just like, yes dear, very nice, you've been reading too many books, blah 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 blah, etc etc, and that kind of standard scenario. Mystery landscape. So this is saying that the mystery landscape is some ways easier to play. This is the landscape presented in the overview of the book, which I don't have with me today. So it's kind of like more open world meandering, I suppose. I'm not 100% sure about that. Not sure. Hard to say. And because we'd also have to invent the strange things that happen, although we could do that with that table, I suppose. So for example, say we're just at school. Let's see. So let's go back up to the table. Let's see if this gives us any indication of what happens. So, and we want to have advantage. So a 15 and a 31. So a charming contact. Yeah, it doesn't really... I mean, I could make it up. We could also use other sorts of random generators, I suppose. A charming contact. Let's say a friend has a cousin from out of town, and they're very charming in whatever way that may mean. And they tell me they think there's something odd about our town. Like, have you not noticed it before? The loop. Yeah, I mean, we do, and it's sort of familiar. And they saw... I like that picture I saw earlier. They saw a dog, but it looked like it had a bionic eye. So we go to investigate. There we go. Is everything as it seems? Yeah. And there's new factions and all sorts of things. So I think there's hints there. Tilts. Tilts, I can't quite remember without having the book in front of me. I don't think it's going to be in our summary. No. Yeah. I think that's taking us off at tangents and things like that, I guess. Index cards if you find it useful. So this, I reckon, would be a very good way to create a scenario for more general, normal Tales from the Loop play, actually. So there's an idea. Evolving NPCs, solo playing tips. Okay, let's have a quick look through and we better wrap up. Lightest rule set of the Zero Engine games, that is true. So I think have fun with that. You will find clues where you look for them. I think you could take a leaf out of the gumshoe system and just like keep the thing going to find clues. If you look for a clue, roll to overcome the trouble first, then ask the question if this is the clue. Yeah, okay. Create the adventures you want to play. Create... If you don't have time to play, create an interesting NPC. Quite sure what that means. Scenes are the building blocks. Experience is maybe less important. Yeah. 9 plus 1d6. Oh, the age. Okay. Entire character sheet. The character sheets are quite simple in Tales from the Loop. Give yourself a lucky break. Yep. Develop the lead skill. Yep. I think that'll make sense. So let's summarize. I guess in this case, we want to compare and contrast to last week with the Wicked Ones. Or the Wicked One. I keep forgetting that. I actually kind of feel like they both can work. I feel like there's less going on in Alone in the Loop. And there'd be very good ways of generating a scenario for future use and things like that, which is nice. The Wicked One, maybe. I think because it comes from the Blades from the Forged in the Dark system, which is very much more about player agency. Having no one to counteract that with is difficult. Whereas in Alone in the Loop, Tales from the Loop, I think it's kind of maybe easier to work with that. Yeah, I kind of like it. I kind of like the idea of it. I think you could also borrow quite a bit even for just two-player play as well, especially with absolute beginners, just stripping down the rules a lot and kind of having using some of the rules for an open world kind of wander, as it were, which I kind of like as an idea. Anyway, if you like the sound of that, you don't necessarily, well, you probably need Tales from the Loop to do this. Have a look at the Parts Per Million website. I think there must be a link for it. Let's have a look. Suddenly occurred to me. Let's have a look. Yep, here we go. ppmgames.co.uk. There is definitely a website there. You can find, I keep constantly forgetting the title, but Alone in the Loop. It's also on, not sure how I got a copy. I think I got a copy from Drive-Thru RPG, maybe. Not sure actually now. You can also get a copy there, I guess, and see how you go with it. See how you enjoy. I'd love to hear any of the adventures that you play. What do you do with them? How did you find it? How did you find making an adventure on your own? What did you do with the end result? Did you use it for something else, for a full scenario? Did you follow a preset scenario, or did you just explore the mystery land? Did you play in Sweden? Did you play in Colorado? What did you do? I'd love to hear from you. And what's on the schedule? Let me check the schedule. I'm not sure if I've completely defined what the schedule for the next solo adventure will be yet. Let me see. I have not defined what it's going to be yet. I'm not sure. I have quite a lot actually from the parts per million list. I think I have to avoid doing too many in a row. So I might do something a little different, something more of an interactive fiction piece next week. If you have enjoyed it, the run through, the read through, whatever you want to call this, the review, then please leave a comment, please subscribe, please share, and please drop in next time and say hello. I'm talking about solo gaming, but I don't have to be solo streaming. I'd love to hear from you if you enjoy what you've heard and what I've said, and you can give me input as I go. So you can find more about me at christianchiller.com, and until next time, enjoy whatever you play, with a group or alone, and I'll see you next week.